Hello, Clement29 here, another Topic of the Week video, and this week I'll be talking about the ending of Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, so of course, spoilers. This week's topic was submitted by Tumblr user mephhius, and her topic is, your thoughts on people saying Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood's ending was too happy and unrealistic. Do you agree with this notion or not, and why? I've seen stuff like this said for a lot of things, for years honestly, where people talk about things needing to be realistic. Stories need to be realistic. And by that they mean cynical and overly dark. Because if everyone's not left broken and depressed by the ending, it's not poetic cinema. My issue with this is that that's not satisfying storytelling. And for me, when I write, and what I look for in writing is a satisfying and well done story. You look at something like Avatar: The Last Airbender, and yeah, that had a happy ending. That was a satisfying ending. Zuko has redeemed himself. Aang and Katara get together, as as was seen as in-game from episode 1. The Fire Lord is defeated, peace is returned. Hooray! Except I have seen people who hate this sort of thing for extremely weird reasons, because it's not realistic. And Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is no different than this. The people who say stuff like that it's too kiddie, or that it's too happy, these people are either extremely bitter, cynical people who just want everything to be like Game of Thrones, or they're militant Fullmetal Alchemist 03 stans who are just crapping on Brotherhood by saying things like, oh, the only reason anyone liked it is because Ed and Winry got together. Or other nonsense like that. I won't be touching that. I'm not going to be getting into that because that's not part of the discussion. Those are not arguments. Those are just people throwing insults at the show. So I'm not really going to be talking about that. I'm just going to be talking about the overall thing that I've seen from people overall. It's a minority, mind you, because a lot of people have widely recognized Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood as a great anime, and even more, recognize the manga that it's based on as being excellent. So I'm just going to be talking about these group of people who think that Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood's ending is too happy. I hate it when I see people constantly trying to use the word realism to describe things as being dark, gritty, depressing, awful, nasty, violent, whatever. Because it's such a nasty view of the world. Yeah, messed up and dark things happen in the world. No one's going to deny that. But goodness, kindness, happiness, this stuff exists in the real world too. That stuff is realistic. So if you want something realistic, then you have to have all of this. There is good, there is bad. And funnily enough, that stuff's in Fullmetal Alchemist. If you watch Brotherhood, yeah, it has a happy ending, and it can be lighthearted a lot. But you still have things like Nina's mutilation into a chimera, and then her brutal death. Sho Tucker's, deservedly, brutal death. You have Hughes's death. Zipping forward near the end of the series, you have, Buccaneer and Fu's death. I love Buccaneer and Fu. I was so sad when they died. But, it worked well in the story because Arakawa was a great writer. You have things like Winry finding out that Scar killed her parents and confronting him and almost killing him. Yeah, kind of dark. Pretty out of character for Winry because she's so distraught and, she needs... And then people always talk about this. I've seen these similar types of people say that Brotherhood is immature. Yeah, but then you have that scene where Ed, when Winry has a gun on Scar, where Ed calms her down and explains to her that she's meant to heal people. Like, she helped him. She helped, Ed with his automail. Had it not been for her, he wouldn't be able to walk or do anything. She's meant to heal people, not hurt people or kill people. And Winry grows from this. shoot, she's even able to work with Scar even if she can't forgive him for killing her parents. I mean, this point, I'm not going to go into all the stuff, but yeah, there are dark things, there are mature things in... Oh yeah, one thing I need to talk about. The Ishvalan War of Extermination in Brotherhood. Which characters like Roy Mustang, Riza Hawkeye, Major Armstrong, and Hughes were all participating in. Under orders, mind you. And they didn't like it, but they did. They killed the Ishvalans just because they were ordered to. And shoot, no excuses are made for them. There's none of them are going, well, boo-hoo, I'm such a victim. No, they did terrible things. And I mean, these are good characters. These are characters that we like. But you see that Roy, like when he wants to become Fuhrer, he wants to fix things. He wants to help people. And you see at the end of Brotherhood, when he's learning, he's trying to make sure that he knows as much as he can about the Ishvalan culture so that he can mend the bonds with the Ishvalan people and help them out after, the horrible genocide of the Ishvalan people that was organized by Father. There's some dark stuff and mature stuff in this. So, to say that they shouldn't have a happy ending? Like, so what? Should the Ishvalans, be stuck in ghettos and slums with no one like, Roy Mustang or, trying to help them out? I mean, should Ed and Al not, get their bodies back? I mean, sure. Ed is, he still has an automail leg, but should they not get that ending after all the hardships that they suffered? Because one thing that I hate, a lot of people hate this because it's just awful, is when you see a story, a show, a book series, any kind of series, where the characters go through hardships and they go through struggles and they fight to the bitter end, and then they get slapped down and said, yeah, screw you, you don't get anything. I mean, for example, Lost. I invested years of my life in Lost. Lost is a reason I have trust issues with writers. And it's actually what got me to start being critical, because I pretty much stand Lost when the show is airing. But you get through all the hardships, you get through all the bitter stuff, you push through all the mysteries and the conspiracies to the end, and you get hope at the ending's going to tie it all together, and everyone's in purgatory in a church. But they didn't die on the island. They just all died and met up in the afterlife, and this flash sideways where and then everyone just looks at each other and they're just like, yay! Things are great! And then that's the end of the series, and it leaves so many unanswered questions, and that's not satisfying. Especially since you had to watch a lot of these characters die, near the end. And you see all the people who died, and it just leaves you this wholly unsatisfying feeling. Yeah, that sort of stuff, not a good ending. I mean, you see stories. You see characters who tried to do their best, who suffered or were stuck in situations out of their control, and they work hard to try to, to get to a happy ending, and then they're just completely screwed over. I didn't watch Quantum Leap just for Scott Bakula to never be able to make it home. Now, granted, that one was also due to a bit of studio interference and stupidities, but still, that kind of ending, no one wants that. And I'm not advocating that things should have forced happy endings, but the ending should be a natural result of what happens, and this is what happens in Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. At the very end, the whole concept of equivalent exchange is repeated ad nauseum over and over and over again in the series. At the end, when, Al, sacrifices his soul to get Ed his arm back, and then Ed ends up, after the final battle, ends up giving up his ability to do alchemy, which is super important to him. Alchemy is like such a core part of his character. He's known as the Full Metal Alchemist. He gives that up for his brother. he'll never be able to do alchemy again. But that's a small price to pay when it accomplishes the goal of restoring his brother that he cares so much about. It doesn't matter that he still has an automail leg, because he gets to bring his brother with his body back and restore him, and then he gets to come back and have his life. I mean, that's not just happy, that's also really emotional. I mean, this is actually good emotions. Like, there's also some angst, especially a lot of angst at the end of the series before it gets happy, but it kind of blows my mind when people say that Brotherhood was just too happy. Like, what did you expect? Did you expect a meteor to crash at the end and kill everyone? Like, did you expect them to kill off characters like Roy and Riza and Winry or something, and then just leave, Ed and Al feeling miserable? Like, really, what were people expecting? A sad ending to a story that is already filled with so much grief and suffering? I mean, Fullmetal Alchemist is pro-recovery, and that's what the ending is. It's recovery. They managed to, the characters recover, the country's recovering, particularly because it had, an iron grip from Father for hundreds of years. But did people want there to be something dark at the end of this tunnel? That's not satisfying. That's not good writing, because that's not satisfying writing. That's not logical. When people, read a manga or watch a show, people aren't watching this to have reality. People don't get into fiction to have reality shoved down their throat. It's called escapist fiction for a reason. People want to escape to fiction. People want fantastic worlds or stories that couldn't possibly happen in the real world. Regardless of how grounded the setting is, people do want satisfying stories, and they don't want to have messages of hopelessness shoved in their faces. This is why, stories where the ultimate message is, yeah, it sucks that you had any hope. Those aren't good. You can have, some darker endings, and a couple of my favorite video games, like Halo Reach and, Metal Gear Solid 3 have some pretty sad endings. This one especially, mainly because this one's the start of darkness for Big Boss. But, that works within the story. It's, a logical progression of it. And even then, they don't end as being, completely awful, because that Big Boss ends up being defeated, and with Halo, that the war ends up coming to a positive ending in Halo 3. So, ultimately, those still ended up having, better endings. Okay, well, barring the post-MGS1 Metal Gear Solid story, but I'm not going to be talking about that. But, and it really annoys me that a lot of people seem to be so stuck in this idea that stories need to be dark, they need to be depressing, or they're not good or mature, or they're not for adults. And it's ironically, it's far more immature to be basically thinking that you need to have dark, grimdark even, stories in order for something to be considered serious. Avatar: The Last Airbender is widely considered to be a well-written show, because it's amazing, it's fantastic. A few bumps in the road, but still overall extremely well written. Has a happy ending where the good guys win. Is Avatar: The Last Airbender suddenly a bad show because it had a happy ending? If we're going to be putting this logic on Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, if you took any story that has a happy ending and you just twist it and make it depressing, does that make it better? No. Shoot, people... If you got to the ending of, of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and you killed off Sokka, Katara, Zuko, whatever, And you killed them all off, and then Aang had to brutally murder the Fire Lord, and then you end it there. That's not satisfying. You know, I never really had an issue with it, but even the issue that people had with, you know, Aang using energy bending to defeat the Fire Lord, at the cost of him possibly losing his bending, that's a far smaller issue than basically rocks fall and everyone dies. I mean, I really want people to think about this. You know, this realism stuff, because this stuff gets said a lot. You know, that things need to be dark, things need to be realistic. Attack on Titan is great because it's realistic, because people die. Well, yeah, people die, but I don't want to see all the characters that I care about die, causing me to lose interest. It's misguided, and I think a lot of people just don't really know how stories work, because, I mean, no one really wants depressing stories. No one wants everything to be depressing, and we already have too much of that. This idea that grim and dark stuff is better. It's really not. Because, you know, what's the message there? Hey, life sucks. Hey, guess what? We have real life for that. If I wanted that in my fiction, I'd be watching Game of Thrones or The Walking Dead. You know, I wouldn't be watching something like Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. Because I don't want stories, and a lot of people don't want stories that are telling them that life sucks, because we already know that. We want stories of hopefulness. Because, guess what? That's actually good writing. And if you can inspire people to have some hope, then that's far better than basically telling them that life sucks and there's nothing you can do about it. Well, I think that about sums it up. So, if you want to submit a topic to me, you can either comment below if you're on YouTube, or if you're on Tumblr, send me an ask and do topic : and then whatever topic you want me to talk about. Just make sure to follow the rules that I'll be posting down below. If you want to watch last week's topic video, you can check that out here. If you want to watch next week's topic video, you can check that out here when I get that done. And thank you for watching.